Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another speed paint. And this time it's a makeup challenge, which is interesting. It was very fun to work with makeup. It actually wasn't the first time I've done it. I did it once before for a Mary Kay type event where we were getting rid of old makeup, but this is the first time really doing it seriously. This is also another first time for me because this is kind of my first serious piece of fan art, as serious as you can get when you're doing a makeup challenge. If I may get a little bit personal here, I've sort of for the past, 5 or so years, but this last year in particular, I've been going through, I don't want to say an artist crisis, but kind of trying to figure out what exactly I'm supposed to do with art. I did art way before I ever did music, and everyone always assumed I was going to be an artist. That's what I was gifted at, that's what I was good at, but I've tried selling things, I've tried teaching, nobody ever buys anything. I get a lot of interest in students, but the majority of them always just never even come to the first lesson. And so after a art show that I had been preparing for and really excited about fell through, I sort of went through a period of just being really sad and not wanting to do art and not seeing the point in it. And I had always wanted to do fan art before. I love fan art. I love looking at it, but I always felt like, I can't sell that. It's not really my right to sell that. Tons of people do that. It's not useful, and I shouldn't waste my time with that. But now, stepping back and looking at it, since art is not going to be a career for me, it's a fun thing, and I should just do what's fun and have fun with it, because that's what it's about in this instance, is making other people happy and making myself happy, not about making money or the bottom line. So anyways, it was very freeing doing this piece. I, of course, graphed it because I wasn't going to attempt a position like that just freehand. That's quite the complicated position, but I really loved it and wanted to do him with his bow, because that's like one of my favorite pieces of the promotional artwork. Most of the stuff that you'll see me using is a lot of foundation and a lot of eyeliner. I use watercolor paper because I figured that the eyeshadows would behave quite a bit like watercolor, and the paper, since it's so thick, could probably take most of the other stuff no problem. For some reason, I did the one thing you're not supposed to do when you're an artist, and I started with the foreground, and I started from right to left, even though I'm a right-handed person. That was a brilliant idea, wasn't it? Yeah, great job. But anyways, the bow itself is, again, foundation and eyeliner for the most part. I started with the little metal details with eyeshadows, but I eventually put in some eyeliner to try to darken it up a bit. One thing that I discovered is it's very difficult to get dark colors with the eyeshadows. And the music in the background, I'm sure you recognize that first thing. It's the opening to the Breath of the Wild. And the rest of the background music is a whole bunch of sort of the overworld themes of the soundtrack, just little sections that have overworld. I really like the direction they chose musically for the Breath of the Wild soundtrack. I think it fitted really nicely. Moving on though, eyeshadows. So this tunic was giving me a terrible time. The difference between eyeshadows and watercolor, it seems, is watercolor soaks into the paper and it blends really nicely, whereas eyeshadow just kind of stays on top as individual pieces of pigment. And I tried to use a binding agent to make it work better, but that didn't work at all. It just made it clump up and bunch, and eventually I just took off as much as I could and was like, I'm just gonna do something else and then come back to that. So moving on to his face, which of course is foundations, and his hair is mostly foundations too, because I had this like really golden tan color that worked well for yellows. The most difficult part probably was with the face was getting it light enough, because a lot of anime and video game characters, super pale skin. That's like the highest form of beauty in the Asian aesthetic, I guess. So they make all of their really supposed to be good looking characters super pale. And even though I have really pale skin, it's hard to find foundations that are pale enough. Eventually I just did multiple layers on the tunic and got it to where I was sort of happy with it for the most part. It's still not perfectly smooth, but oh well, it's the best it can do. The eyes, the blue eyes, was just eyeshadow. For some reason it's a lot easier to get even tone when it's just that. Of course I use eyeliner to line the eyes. Tee-hee-hee. I had this weird green lipstick that I used as the base on the pants, and then just used the eyeshadows for tinting with it. That seemed to work pretty well. And then this is eyeliner for the most part, with some more of that foundation that's kind of yellowy for all of the boots and the belts and stuff like that. That seemed to work out pretty well for it. And then hand, of course, is more foundation, and there'll be some more eyeliner for his gauntlets. I actually used just a touch of lipstick early on for the wrapping on the bow. That was the only thing that had any red tones. Boots, again, is more foundation and more eyeliner. I actually used a tad of blue on one, which it had some blue there, but not as much as I used. I think I was just sort of getting bored with the basic colors and was like, I'm gonna just put a fun color in there randomly, because yeah. This was probably my favorite part. I loved how the bowstring turned out. It's just eyeliner again, and I used the ruler, but it works so perfectly and it looks so cool. For any white sections or super light sections, I for the most part just left them white. Maybe tinted them a tad with one of the eyeshadows, but it didn't really need much for the super light sections. And then the shield was interesting too. I originally started it with the black eyeshadows, but that was not getting dark enough, so I decided to pull out the mascara and see what it did, and that worked pretty well. I would just put globs of it on there and then spread it around where it needed to be with the brush, so that worked well. The Sheikah Slate was a lot of fun. That was, again, the yellowish, brownish foundation, the bluish eyeshadow, and then I just grabbed some of the mascara with the brush and used that to make all the gray tones. And I really liked how the Sheikah Slate turned out. It made me so happy. And then there's just one more thing left to do, and that was the arrowhead. And the arrowhead was a lot of fun. I used a clear lip gloss to give it a nice clean look to it, and then just some eyeshadows to give it that little bit of color. It didn't end up as bright as the original, but it ended up as bright as I possibly could. So yeah, and that's the Link one. A lot of fun. Let me know if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.